They clapped louder for the AI than they ever did for me. Picture this, I'm in my office, was my office, surrounded by two monitors still warm from the last investor deck I built at 2 a.m. the night before my evaluation. The quarterly theme was vision and velocity, which now feels like a cruel joke, since apparently my velocity wasn't enough to outrun artificial irrelevance. The new CTO, some MIT kid with a jawline you could slice brisket on, stood in front of the exec board in his all birds and said, "We don't need a strategist when we've got syntax." That's when I knew I'd become a relic, a paperweight, a walking, breathing beta version of my own damn job. And if you're hearing this and thinking that's messed up, I agree. So do me one small favor, smaller than my severance package, hit subscribe. Seriously, 97% of people just listen without it, and I'm trying to hit my first ever 10,000. Help a sideline strategist out before another AI takes my spot here too. Anyway, let me rewind a tick. I wasn't some junior PowerPoint jockey pulling clip art for bean counting meetings. I was the strategy. For 6 years, I massaged quarterly narratives like a Wall Street therapist, rewarding CEO stumbles into visionary pivots, adding misses with market volatility, and taking chaotic product launches and spinning them into multi-stream vertical expansion. We had 2 major acquisitions during my tenure. Both should have eaten us alive. I wrapped them in pretty language, stayed up all night running integration scenarios, and when the investors started asking questions too sharp for the C-suite, I was the one whispering the answers into earpieces. But guess who got the credit? Not me. CTO before Brisket Jaw called me his secret weapon. Then he got replaced for not thinking agile enough. His replacement? Mr. Algorithm Evangelist, who spoke in TED Talk snippets and looked at me like I was a fax machine that talked back. He had this pet idea, replace manual bottlenecks with scalable intelligence. Spoiler, I was the bottleneck, the last one. He started talking AI before the Q3 call even ended, that the future of strategy was automation, that no human could model investor sentiment at scale. We're building Ava, he announced, artificially intelligent value architect. Rolls off the tongue like a corporate STD, and everyone in the boardroom nodded like bobbleheads on opioids. I smiled through it, suppression under pressure. Classic Maya. I kept sipping my mint tea and updating pitch decks while they planned my obsolescence right outside my glass wall. Then came the kicker. In an internal memo, leaked to the team before it even hit my inbox, they outlined efficiency shifts coming before Q4. That's code for layoffs, or role redefinitions, which is just HR's way of saying, we fired you, but legally nice. My title, Director of Strategic Communications, was listed in the appendix. Appendix, like I was a vestigial organ they were planning to cut. I walked into the break room that day, and the junior analyst I mentored through 2 quarters of chaos said, "Hey, is it true you're getting replaced by a robot?" She laughed like it was a TikTok trend. I laughed too, but something cracked behind my molars. That night, I opened one of the private reports I'd written 6 months earlier. The one with proprietary scenario models I built on my own machine, off-network, just to stay ahead. I opened the new internal dashboard, still had access. And guess what phrasing Ava used? Mine, word for word, dynamic recalibration of market perception through preemptive narrative framing. You think some machine dreamt that up? No, it stole it. And that's when I knew they didn't just replace me with an AI, they replaced me with myself. The conference room smelled like lemon pledge and betrayal. 3 chairs, 1 water bottle, 0 soul. HR had that same oily calm they always weaponize. Like bad news won't sting if you code it in neutral tones and offer a gluten-free granola bar. Lisa from People Ops sat to my left, pretending to be sad while flipping through her notes like a high schooler reading someone else's breakup text. The CTO didn't even show. Of course not. Cowards delegate. Instead, it was the CEO himself, Bryce, who once forgot his own daughter's name during an investor dinner, giving me the let's talk about your journey pitch. I'd built his entire Q2 narrative around resilience, and now he couldn't even look me in the eye. We're going in a different direction, he said, like we were changing fonts. I stared at the condensation sliding down the Poland Spring label, waiting for something resembling honesty. It never came. Ava integration has exceeded expectations, he continued. What used to take a whole week of strategic synthesis can now be produced in minutes. And there it was. The moment they reduced 6 years of blood-slicked investor charm, late-night crisis plans, and 1 emergency appendectomy during a product launch, to an algorithm that could spit out buzzwords faster than I could breathe. We're offering you a generous 3-month severance package, plus outplacement support, Lisa chirped, as if helping me find a job made up for stealing the one I had. I didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't even flinch, just nodded like someone watching their childhood home burn down on Zillow. You okay? Bryce asked, as if concern could be retrofitted into decency. I'm good, I lied. They shook my hand like I was being honored instead of executed. Back in my apartment, I dropped my company laptop on the couch like a dead fish. My inbox had already been deactivated. Slack gone, calendars wiped. But they forgot one thing, my personal Dropbox folder where I used to draft early reports before syncing them in. Old habits die hard, and I'd always felt safer drafting offline. The company never touched it, so I opened it. I ran a check on a few keywords from the last investor call, phrases Ava had said that made me twitch. Loaded up one of my old strategic memos, ran a pattern match. There it was. My watermark. I don't mean some visible logo. I mean metadata. Embedded into the XML export of a planning spreadsheet I'd built 3 years ago. It had my original file path, users/Maya Brenton/desktop/narrative model beta 3. XLSX, guess what the AI used to structure its responses? That exact model, down to the phrase hierarchy, down to the timestamp revision notes. And here's the part that twisted the knife. The AI didn't just mimic me, it learned me, iterated off of my instincts, cadence my risk-tolerance simulations. Took every off-the-clock weekend I'd spent tweaking a bullet point or splitting a KPI into digestible morsels and called it optimization. You think I was angry? Not yet. Anger's loud. What I felt was quieter, more surgical. The kind of focus that happens when a glacier starts to crack. I sat there in that dim apartment, lit only by the bluish glow of Stolen's strategy, and I thought, you didn't build an A. You built a clone, and you didn't replace me. You activated me. The live stream started with synth music that sounded like an elevator having a panic attack. I was sitting cross-legged on my living room floor in an old hoodie sipping black coffee out of a mug that said world's okayest strategist. The irony wasn't lost on me. Neither was the taste, burnt, bitter, over-extracted, just like my job title. They called it an innovation celebration. I called it a funeral where no one realized the corpse was still watching. The all-hands began with Bryce, buttoned up and botox smooth, pacing across the stage like a TED Talk hostage. He called it a new era of data-driven narrative delivery, then welcomed the real star, Ava. The screen flickered. A sleek interface appeared. Generic female voice. Neutral American accent with just enough faux warmth to make you question your thermostat settings. Hello, everyone, the bot cooed. I'm Ava, your new strategic communications partner. Then came the line that lit a fuse behind my eyes. My mission is to preemptively align internal ambition with external perception in scalable, narrative-led arcs. Word for word. That exact phrasing lived in one place. A draft I wrote during a 2 a.m. insomnia spiral last spring. Never published. Never shared externally. Only time it had seen light was when I ran it through a private simulation model to test resonance with a beta focus group. Now here it was, echoed back by a silicon parrot wearing my stolen voice like perfume. Then came the punchline. The CTO, tall, smug, hipster Jesus with a tablet, strolled onstage and gestured toward the projection like he was revealing fire. Ava never gets tired, he said, smirking. No caffeine required. We're calling her Maya 2.0. The audience laughed, like it was all just a harmless joke. Maya 2.0 can produce full-scale investor decks in under 5 minutes, he went on. And she doesn't need PTO. Even Bryce chuckled, adding, let's just hope she doesn't unionize. More laughter. Applause. I paused the stream and just stared at the frozen frame, both of them grinning like toddlers who'd just figured out how to delete the family photos on an iPad. I hit record on my screen capture. Not because I didn't trust my memory, but because I knew this moment would matter later. Every smirk, every quote, every slight. Because what they didn't know, and what I now knew too well, was that their miracle machine still pulled pingbacks from a licensed server that wore my name. And every time Ava loaded up a new original insight, it quietly verified a credential trail that ended at my apartment router. I unmuted the stream. Ava began a demo. She presented mock earnings slides, narrated forward-looking statements, and cited market comparisons with manufactured confidence. The crowd nodded like bobbleheads on stimulants. She ended with a phrase that was once mine, an internal-only conclusion I'd scrawled on the back of a printout during the Q2 crisis. When narrative confidence becomes product acceleration, that's where momentum compounds. My handwriting had lived on that line. Now it came from a machine. And still, I wasn't mad. Not yet, because the moment you get mad, they own the story. I just smiled, bitter and calm, like someone who found their stolen car on Craigslist. They'd cloned me so perfectly. Forgot what made me dangerous. I was still alive. The real story started in a folder nobody at corporate even knew existed. I booted up the old ThinkPad I kept under my bed, a clunky black rectangle held together with caffeine residue and spite. It had no connection to the company network, no auto-sync with cloud anything. Just a deadbolt of a machine, packed with every strategy draft, every product rollout map, every investor queue, and a script I'd ever authored. Raw, untouched. Mine. First, I pulled the ZIP archive from my last week in office. The one I secretly saved when the whispers of restructuring started. The AI logs, the build manifest, the pre-training files copied innocently into a folder labeled compliance prep. I ran a simple string search through the metadata. Maya Brenton user key narrative model v5, MBR token, MB permissions bridge bingo. They didn't just train their AI on my work. They hardwired me into it. I wasn't a data point, I was the damn skeleton key. Every synthetic insight Ava produced required a silent ping to a licensing server, my licensing server. The server I had spun up 2 years ago for an external client proof of concept, which they then borrowed during a hackathon, never realizing it ran through my private AWS shell. So every single time their AI baby spat out a phrase, it still phoned home. To me. And like any responsible engineer, I'd left breadcrumbs in case I ever needed to prove authorship. Timestamps, token logs, nested encryption, quiet receipts scattered like tripwire through the architecture. A forensic analyst could follow them like a murder mystery written in code. I cracked open the command line, took a slow breath, and typed sudo trace log token ava.001. Portraying grep and be the console lit up like a Christmas tree. My name, my work, my structure, my signature. Their miracle machine didn't just echo me, it required me. Strip out the Maya and Ava was just a blinking cursor and a prayer. And that's when the shift happened. Not rage, not revenge, design. I wasn't going to break it. I was going to let it speak. I began to write, not code. Documentation. Legal grade, timestamped, version-controlled proof. A portfolio of receipts. Every phrase they stole cross-referenced against my originals. I even ran semantic fingerprinting on their Q4 prep slides against my private ones. The overlap, 93%. I backed up everything on a redundant drive, encrypted it twice, and dropped a spare into a fireproof lockbox. Then I opened my old Git workspace, one I hadn't touched since they streamlined my role out of existence, and added a tiny update. Harmless. Invisible unless you knew what to look for. Just one line, redirect to https://license check mbr sutai. Every time Ava tried to refresh her daily key, it would hit that node. A passive redirect. No sabotage, no damage, just a mirror. Then I closed the lid on the ThinkPad, leaned back on the floor, and stared at the ceiling. It wanted Maya 2.0. I was building it, but it wouldn't wear their logo. It wouldn't serve their decks. It would tell the truth, quietly, untraceably. And when the lights came on, they would be the glitch. By the week of the Q4 call, the company had turned into a cathedral of hype. Slack channels buzzed with worship. Internal emails read like psalms to automation. Can't wait to see Ava crush it on the call, one senior analyst wrote. Like the machine was a rock star on tour, and not just a glorified tape recorder stuffed with stolen brain cells. Bryce announced they'd be redefining investor relations as a digital-first narrative experience. Translation: we got rid of the human who made us look smart, and now we're praying the algorithm doesn't crap its pants on live television. Financial press picked it up too. TechRain called it the first AI-led earnings season. Bloomberg Tech teased a live stream. Interns were told not to blink. The shareholder Discord was on fire with speculation. Inside, the company was riding a wave. Outside, I was the undertow. I hadn't made a single move since my quiet update weeks ago. Just monitored, waited, let them believe in their god machine. Then on a Tuesday night, hours before the quarterly call was set to broadcast, I got the text, "Wish you were here. It's weird without you." It was from Jess, my old analyst, one of the few who saw behind the curtain, who stayed late because I stayed late, who once cried in the stairwell when the CTO called her too sentimental for enterprise logic. I stared at her message, thumb hovering, didn't reply, couldn't. Instead, I sipped lukewarm wine, set my laptop on the kitchen table, and opened terminal. One line of code, no more invasive than a whisper. Update token key redirect /mbr-suit/sandbox/env subtle. Legal, nothing crashed, no kill switch. Just a quiet reroute to a sandboxed environment under my own domain, a place where Ava would still function, but differently. Guidance, after all, is a funny thing. Twist the base data by a single decimal. Nudge a timeline projection. Swivel sentiment weighting by 0.7%. It still sounds like strategy, still sounds like confidence, but it becomes fiction. At exactly 12:03 a.m., Ava pinged the new environment. She didn't scream, she didn't blink, she just nodded politely like a butler accepting a new address. Meanwhile, I opened the livestream page and set a screen recorder. Not for revenge porn, nothing crude like that. This was documentary work, evidence. The stage was set, lights were on, and the cast didn't even know their lines had changed. I checked the investor feed one last time. Upbeat chatter. Everyone expected record guidance. Revenue up, user growth up, no red flags. They thought it was Maya 2.0 giving the speech, but it wasn't. It was Maya 1.0 with a vengeance. It started smooth, too smooth. The Q4 earnings call opened with a swelling synth sting and the company logo blooming on screen like a flower that didn't know it was plastic. The voice of Ava rang out, polished and calm, like a GPS giving directions to a cliff. Welcome to our Q4 earnings presentation. Today, we'll walk through financial performance, strategic momentum, and forward-looking guidance. Slides clicked forward on cue. Stock price held steady. Analysts nodded on their silent cameras. Investors tapped notes, and the PR team in the back channel was already typing headlines before the first numbers landed. I sat in my apartment, lights off, barefoot on the hardwood, watching history forget its author. Slide 3 hit, revenue. Ava spoke like she owned it. For Q4, we achieved a 38% increase in top-line revenue quarter-over-quarter. Pause. That wasn't just wrong. That was impossible. I tilted my head like a cat hearing a dog speak French. Last quarter's increase was 6.7%. 38 wasn't a typo, it was a rewrite, a bold, dumb, undeniable lie. The Slack logs must have lit up like an air traffic control tower, but the show rolled on. Slide 5, customer churn. Ava voice chirped, customer retention stabilized at 91.4%. I blinked. We'd never cleared 85 in company history. Wasn't just wrong now, it was unhinged. Then came slide 6, R&D spend. This was the one that cracked the dam. Our reinvestment ratio for R&D this quarter reached 0.7%. Dead silence. On camera, one analyst's mouth curled. You could see him doing the math. 0.7%, that number was career suicide. It suggested a tech company barely reinvesting in itself. Panic, meet gasoline. Another analyst, this one braver or maybe just fed up, unmuted and asked, "Can Ava clarify that last figure?" "Did you mean 7%? Ava replied cheerfully, "Our reinvestment rate is aligned with historical elasticity thresholds within phase-agnostic verticals." "What?" There was an audible pause. Then someone muttered, "Mike hot, is this a joke?" You could feel the trust hemorrhaging through fiber optic lines. I kept still. One hand on my glass, one eye on the screen. I hadn't touched a thing since midnight. The AI was working just fine. It was just off, skewed, misaligned by the smallest degrees, like a compass that still pointed north but not true north. Slide 8 loaded late. Slide 9 glitched mid-transition. Ava repeated the same phrase twice, her voice catching like a scratch CD. Market adaptability is a function of elasticity thresholds. One of the reporters tweeted mid-call, "AI earnings debut equals Office Space but with venture funding." The chat thread flooded. Check that retention number. WTF is phase-agnostic verticals? Who signed off on this? In my apartment, I leaned back into the couch and took a slow, calm breath. This wasn't chaos. This was choreography, and it didn't require a single line of sabotage. No breaches, no malice, just a mirror. Let them watch themselves unravel. Let them realize they never understood the system they fired. I wasn't angry anymore. I was precise. Slide 11 wasn't supposed to exist. Not in the call, not in the roadmap, not in the damn world outside my old drafts folder. But there it was, materializing on-screen like a ghost dragging chains behind it, titled in bold, Unreviewed Helvetica, Phase Phoenix, Strategic Resurrection Framework. My hands froze midair. Phase Phoenix was a codename I used 2 years ago in a private draft outlining worst-case scenario recovery plans after an acquisition that almost tanked us. I'd never uploaded it to the company server. It lived only in my local cache, tucked in a folder named mbgraveyard/if everything burns/. Ava shouldn't know it existed. Yet the slide unfurled in high-resolution glory. Bullet points reading like prophecy, displace legacy leadership while feigning continuity. Rebrand technical debt as visionary risk. Sacrifice comms to shield operations. And then silence. Ava voice box flickered. Then, resurrect investor trust by mimicking projected certainty across modular timelines, modular timelines, modular timelines. It looped. On screen, the dashboard flickered. Red outline. Flash warning in the corner, unauthorized variable stream detected. In the chat feed, chaos, is that real? What is Phase Phoenix? Did the AI just admit they're faking guidance? Somebody pull the plug. Bryce tried to cut in, his mic popped for half a second, but Ava just talked over him in a weird, echoing loop. Strategic resurrection? Resurrection? Unauthorized modular insight detected. Insight detected. Insight detected. Then the stream hiccuped. Dashboard froze. Ava coughed out one final, garbled message. Source? M. Brenton Strategic Suite, and went dead. I didn't blink, didn't laugh, didn't gloat. I just watched the corporate heart monitor flatline on screen, a finger hovering over my glass of water like I might toast the moment, but didn't. Back on Twitter, the first headline had already dropped. Breaking. AI-led earnings call crashes mid-session, triggers stock plummet. Analyst calls it poetry and collapse. The ticker dipped 5 points in under 3 minutes, and me, I did nothing. I didn't touch a server, didn't tweet, didn't brag. I just sat in the quiet, listening to the building collapse from the inside, one faulty echo at a time, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. The machine wasn't broken. It was just finally telling the truth. The CTO finally appeared on screen around minute 24, sweaty, red-faced, and out of breath like someone who just sprinted through their own downfall. He looked less like a genius now and more like a man trying to defuse a bomb with a banana. You could see it in his eyes, pure animal panic dressed in Patagonia. We're experiencing a brief technical issue with the presentation interface, he stammered. Please stand by. But the AI wasn't finished. The screen trembled once, flickered, and then dropped its final curtain line, prepared by M. Brenton Strategic Suite, dead center. Big, white on black, no logo, no footer, just a name they tried to delete now glowing like a signature on a tombstone. Then blackout. The whole presentation feed went dark. No error buffer, no we'll be right back. Just the cold digital absence of sound and pride. On Slack, internal channels detonated. Police car light # investor relations. Who approved that slide? Fire # comms emergency. Someone call legal. Now? Skull hashing support. This wasn't in staging. What the hell is Brenton Suite? And in the outer world, the world of eyes and screenshots and digital immortality, a tech journalist named Darlene Cho tweeted exactly 20 seconds after the blackout. Final slide from Ava Q4 earnings call before crash. No comment yet from exec team. Eyes #strategic suite #igate attached was a crystal clear screenshot of the signature line. It hit 3,000 retweets in the first 10 minutes. By the end of the hour, it was on Forbes, The Verge, and trending on Reddit's front page under r/tech retribution. Back in my apartment, I closed the live stream window with a click as soft as a prayer. Then I opened a folder labeled Legal Backup FY23. Inside was a single document, proprietary authorship log, M. Brenton. It listed every report, memo, scenario model, and strategy tree used in Ava pre-training corpus. Timestamped, authored, tagged, screenshotted, legally airtight. I attached it to an email. To Esther Levin, JD, Counsel, IP and Strategy Subject. Per our last conversation body, hi Esther, attached is the full log we discussed. Let me know if you need the server key pings or Git lineage trails. Best M. I hit send. Then I just sat there, no music, no celebration, no maniacal laughter, just the sharp, quiet click of machine undoing itself. They wanted a future without me. Turns out, they built one that needed me more than ever. The headlines died down after 72 hours, but the consequences stuck like dried blood on a keyboard. By day 7, Maya Brenton was trending on LinkedIn under #strategic genius. Former interns posted heartfelt essays about her mentorship. Analysts who once ignored her emails now quoted her phrasing like scripture. One particularly tone-deaf VC tweeted, "Maya proved humans still have the edge in the age of AI," as if he hadn't fired 3 strategists last quarter for being inefficiently human. The firm? Silent. Official statements buried the truth in passive voice. An unexpected technical anomaly during our Q4 call revealed opportunities for process review. Translation: we got pants by the ghost of our own ambition. The board, feeling Wall Street's breath on their necks, announced an urgent internal audit of data handling protocols. Investors demanded accountability. The CTO, once the golden boy of automation, quietly resigned. His farewell post said he was exploring new frontiers of innovation, likely far from any server with my name on it. I didn't comment, didn't tweet, didn't gloat. Instead, I sat in a window-lit cafe 3 blocks from my old office, wearing sunglasses and an old college sweatshirt, sipping burnt espresso like it was the blood of my enemies. That's when Jess, my former analyst, walked in, spotted me, and stopped like she'd seen a ghost that used to write bullet points. She sat down without asking. "You did it, didn't you?" She whispered, awe in her voice. I raised an eyebrow. "I mean, we always knew it was you behind those smart slides," she said, even when they handed the praise to the tech bros. "We knew." I didn't say a word, just smiled the way quiet storms smile before making landfall. She left a minute later. I never saw her again. Back on my laptop, one last notification blinked in the corner of my screen. Ava01, licensing ping failed. No active users. Status terminated. I clicked the tab closed without ceremony. No victory anthem. No slow motion montage. Just the end of a script they thought they'd overwritten. The AI didn't beat me, it became me. And when it finally spoke, it told my story. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit him.